An unprecedented spectacle in New York today. Former President Donald Trump back in court facing a judge as his civil fraud trial begins. This New York State Supreme Court trial is the first of many cases looming over Trump's election bid. And the judge last week already found him liable for massive fraud. New York Attorney General Letitia James accusing Trump of years of overinflating his net worth and misrepresenting his company's assets.
Donald Trump and the other defendants have committed persistent and repeated fraud. Last week, we proved that in our motion for summary judgment. Today, we will prove our other claims. My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law.
Trump sat inside the courtroom for hours, flanked by his lawyers as prosecutors explained in detail the alleged acts of fraud, saying Trump, quote, overvalued his statements from $812 million to $2.2 billion, that he knew that they were false and used them to obtain benefits he was not entitled to. The opening statement featured never-before-seen deposition video, including Trump's own.
To meet your obligation here of presenting the information in accordance with GAAP, was Alan Weisselberg responsible for that?
Object to the form.
I would say yes.
Throwing former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg under the bus. Now, remember, Weisselberg has already been convicted of tax fraud, and we learned through his newly released deposition video that he actually never took the Certified Public Accountant exam.
If I said the phrase GAAP, G-A-A-P, are you familiar with that acronym?
I've heard of that, yes.
Okay. Tell me everything you know about GAAP. What is GAAP?
Generally accepted accounting principles. I don't know what's in GAAP. I never took the CPA exam.
Okay.
And never studied for it. So I don't know all the various components of what GAAP is.
Are there any components you know about what GAAP is?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Call me crazy, but it seems like basic accounting principles might be important knowledge for a CFO. And let's be clear, ignorance of it, it's not a defense. The prosecution also playing clips of Trump's sons. Now, here's Don Jr. laughing about those same accounting principles Weisselberg said he knew nothing about.
Do you have any familiarity with an acronym GAAP, G-A-A-P?
Generally accepted accounting principles, yes.
Okay. How did you become familiar with that acronym?
Probably in Accounting 101 at Wharton.
Okay. What do they teach you about generally accepted accounting principles in Wharton?
Well, I'm not an accountant, but that they are generally accepted.
Anything else?
That's pretty much what I remember from Accounting 101. So.
Have you told me everything you know about GAAP?
Basically. I'm sure I could come up with some creative stuff to kill time, but I'd be doing neither of us a favor in terms of educating ourselves.
Eric Trump also questioned, saying he doesn't even remember talking about the financial conditions.
I don't remember a video conference in 2021 talking about the statement of financial condition. Did I mean, maybe you could show me something, but again, I don't think I ever signed a statement of financial condition. I don't, I've done a lot to try and jog my memory, and I simply can't because I don't think I've ever had any involvement in the statement of financial condition, to the best of my knowledge.
And even though Trump reportedly appeared solemn in court, maybe even bored, yawning at times, he was visibly irate outside of the courthouse, railing against the case and targeting the judge with nasty accusations.
This is a judge that should be out of office. This is a judge that some people say could be charged criminally for what he's doing. This is really now getting dirty between Jack Smith and between all of these DOJ people helping them along. This is a pure witch hunt for purposes of interfering with the elections.
Now, we'll have more on Trump's defense later in the hour. But first, joining me now is Neil Katyal, former acting U.S. Solicitor General, Maya Wiley, former SDNY civil attorney and now the CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and Lisa Rubin, MSNBC legal analyst who was inside the courtroom today. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Kind of set the table for us. What was the atmosphere like inside of the courtroom, especially with Donald Trump being present?
You know, Katie, it was different than other proceedings I've been to where Donald Trump has been present, and noticeably different from the Florida arraignment that I attended when Trump was indicted on the classified documents related charges. That proceeding was solemn. It was sober. It was silent. You could hear a pin drop before it started. This one, by comparison, even though it doesn't involve criminal charges, this might as well be Trump's most important indictment as far as he is concerned, because he was belligerent. He was crossing his arms and shaking his head, at times even physically prodding Chris Kise to get up and argue with the judge or with the attorney general, because this is that important to Donald Trump. This lies at the heart of his public image and his private image as well as America's most successful real estate tycoon. And it was clear that this was very important to him, down to the moment where he exited the courtroom and paused to glare very dramatically at Tish James, the New York Attorney General.
You know, Neil, the prosecution saying in their opening statement they're going to show that Trump's acts of fraud provide the evidence needed to bar Trump from bank loans, and that each defendant continued to engage in illegal acts such as falsifying the records of the Trump organization. So what's your take on the prosecution's opening statement, which, by the way, was shorter than expected, Judge Engoron giving more time to both sides to use, but in the end, Assistant Attorney General Wallace actually didn't take that time. So should he have?
Yeah, I don't think so. I thought Kevin Wallace did a really great job of just explaining how Donald Trump and his family and others basically reverse engineered the value of individual assets like Trump Tower and 40 Wall Street to arrive at, the president's, former presidents trying to get to a certain level of net worth. And I think the general point, Katie, of what happened today is it's really karma catching up on Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump has evaded legal process for so long, like a pro, but it's basically catching up on him. I mean, and Ari's not here, so I can go outside of hip hop and quote the great legal scholar Taylor Swift. Karma's going to track you down step by step from town to town. And that's what we're seeing here, the very first, formal trial beginning against Donald Trump.
So, Maya, I wanted to get your take. You were in the SDNY office. You were on the civil side. You dealt with cases like this. This is a civil fraud trial. And because it's not a criminal case, do you think it was okay for the prosecution to take this particular approach to opening statements, kind of reiterating and reinforcing to Justice Engoron something that he's already pretty much found in terms of liability for Trump and the other defendants?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I agree with Neil. Look, this is a bench trial. There's not a jury here. This is a judge that already really issued a scathing opinion. And I mean scathing. That's the kind of opinion when you're a lawyer on the receiving end, not just of losing your motion in the case of Donald Trump's attorneys, but really getting excoriated by the judge, using words like preposterous, and also, invoking Groundhog Day in terms of lawyers making arguments that he and the appellate division have already dispatched. I mean, it was exactly the kind of thing that is legal name calling. Just got to say that. And so it's no surprise to me that the prosecution walked in here and said, this is a judge that understands this case, understands the legal underpinnings of this case, understands what to listen for, and doesn't need to be talked down to, doesn't need to have that be laid out. So we're just going to make it plain, simple, state it, and then we're going to bring the evidence to prove it. And I think that was a wise move.
Neil, I want to actually stay on a point that Maya just made, though, because this was argument, although it was opening statements, was not supposed to be argument, made to a judge. This is a bench trial, and there's been a lot of flurry on social media today about Alina Habba, who's one of the defense attorneys for Donald Trump, her failure to opt out for a jury trial. And I looked at the New York State statute that's applicable here, and there was a 15-day window after the Attorney General, Letitia James, said no jury trial, within which the defense team for Donald Trump could have elected for a jury trial. And so, Neil, do you think Donald Trump is having this crashing reality moment where he's realizing that maybe the lawyers that he hired just really aren't competent enough to do this type of work for him?
I mean, it's possible that it's a competence issue. I always hesitate, to say that. But certainly, the accountant he hired, as you were just saying a moment ago, Katie, doesn't understand not even accounting 101, even before that. I mean, as a college freshman, I knew what GAAP was, and I didn't even take accounting. So, that's a little frightening. But when it comes to this waiver of a jury trial, which is obviously a hugely significant issue for Donald Trump, I don't have any idea whether this was some intentional, purposeful decision by Trump's legal team to waive his right to a jury trial or not, because with Trump and his team, it's hard to know where incompetence ends and where actual strategy begins. I mean, I think one thing is very clear is that, the episode with this waived jury trial suggests to me that Trump's attorneys should be focusing a little less on the grandstanding that they're doing and all these statements for the media and a little more on making sure that the legal niceties are kept and that their client is protected.